delete. I want to start here. I'm remarkably scared about doing this. I'm like really scared. Cool. Okay. A lot of fear. Hi, I'm your VegCon. Today's VOD is brought to you. Cool. By Silly Booper. Runaway self-doubt. Silly Booper. Fear and loathing. I'm remarkably scared. Silly Booper. Okay, cool. I'm super scared. Silly Booper. Silly Booper. Silly Booper. Booper. Silly Booper. Hey goobers. I really want to talk about Silly Booper. Executive dysfunction responsibly with Silly Booper. Silly Booper. Silly Booper. Silly Booper. Okay, cool. Silly Booper. Today's VOD is brought to you by Runaway Self-Doubt. Cool. Fear and loathing. Hi, so I want to talk about executive dysfunction with y'all, and I want to try to do it responsibly. So I'm going to put resources, actual resources, in the description below, so please go look at those first and foremost. Self-monitoring is one of the places that my organizational skills are on point. My attention control waiver. My task initiation is shitty. Yeah, a thing that I'll sometimes do is phrase this as executive function collapse, because using the notebook, I've been given a myriad of tools. Let's just unpack this really quick. When someone hears, oh hey, you have an experience like mine, let me share a tool, and people share tools with you and no one prioritizes them. You have 10 billion tools and 10 billion people screaming, oh, use my tool. Oh, use my tool. This tool's great. Oh, use my tool. This tool's great. Like, fuck, bro. Dude, no. What I'll do with a notebook, even a dry erase board, I'll log my done tasks and I might kick on like a thing or two that are pending that look cool and fun. But usually my notebook is only things I've done. I have to be cautious around my demand avoidance as well, because even framing something as, oh, I have to, has a different impact on me that will impact the rest of my experience, so much so. So I have to be very careful with like, I don't have to do the laundry. I can do the laundry, it's free, it's there. It's in an easy place for me. I can make it an easier place, and eventually it gets done. But, you know, I will wash it, I'll dry it, I'll put it in the hamper, and it just stays in the hamper till I wear it or till I put it up, one of the two. Emotional control. I think mindfulness is a thing that I practice every day. Genuinely helps me. I have a hard time, but when it comes to impulse control, I sometimes can't sit down. I sometimes can't sit down the cascade of things that I want to do. We also found a lovely bit of literature. I don't want to say super fun and be blasé about it. Remember, when you do get your formal diagnoses, you're being included into a study. That's why I'm going to always say, defer to proper resources, don't make assumptions, don't spread misinformation in the zeitgeist. It was legitimately 1983 when they stopped lobotomizing and sterilizing people with heavy support needs. 70 years. This did not die down until it happened in Washington in 1983. And a thing that I really need to bring up is that a lot of port cities, a lot of cities that would have greeted new people as they came to the state, they were the ones that wanted to show a good face, and they would lobotomize and sterilize their heavy support needs people. Remember, that doesn't help us. It only hurts people. This should genuinely break your heart. This happens to people like me with heavy support needs, as well as other motherfuckers. When people look at us and they say there's a codified racial identity, remember that there's really not. The racial ethnic worldview, it doesn't help us. Anywho, my point being, hi, I'm an ASD person with ADHD. I have heavy support needs, and I have executive dysfunction affects my everyday life. My experience is my own and it's not yours. Hi, let's talk about something and let's give it a little bit more focus. So ASD is characterized by social communication difficulties. These difficulties have been mainly explained by cognitive, motivational, and emotional alterations in ASD. The communication difficulties could, however, be associated with altered sensory processing, and I would like to end it there, because I believe altered sensory processing, which is incorporative of every feature of my body, my eyes, my ears, everything. ADHD, I would just call it a dopamine signaling thingy when I have a little gap with the homies. So the reason I bring that up is when we start looking at like the abstract, this person has difficulty with signaling in their nervous system, disordered dopamine signaling as well. This impacts not just communication, I want to be very clear. This impacts my whole nervous system. You may only talk to the communicative bits, but I swear to fuck, you aren't here when I smell oranges because I'm playing the E string when I should have shifted on an A, or that I feel the slow build of citrus on the A instead of the E. So I guess my point is it's really easy to be overwhelmed because Smells smell like so much, taste tastes like so much. And so now I get overly stimulated, which in conjunction with executive dysfunction really does not help the best. We live, we continue, and we go. So whatever. But like today, for instance, I've barely been able to sit down and eat. I've been trying to eat for, I've been trying to eat for over 6 hours now. You know, I keep doing other stuff. So most work days, it's really easy for me to get sucked into my focus. If I'm streaming, it's easy for me to not stop my game. If I'm cleaning, it's easy for me to clean. And then worst off, if I start cleaning on compulsion, we are fucked. I won't sleep for 3 days. This has happened enough that I'm willing to just toss that off as a quip. Okay. And so if you're easily overstimulated and you have trouble changing and breaking tasks and just initiating yourself to do things, what do we do about that? Well, for me, it's been take apart a lot of the different coping skills I've learned from other people and see what works for me. Not any specific tool, I think at this point in my life, what I say wholeheartedly works as expected. A great deal of it has been, I find what works for me as an individual. For instance, you'll notice a lot of my house, if you've seen it, is stocked and faced like a gas station. I used to work at one, first off, and secondly, why does that help me? Well, I have object permanence issues and I can't really remember what I don't see. So having it in front of me has been a gigantic help for my whole life. Like, if especially when I've lived alone, that I can like face things like this. My care worker came in the other day and was trying to like help, and they'd made I could not disambiguate what I was looking at. It was an amalgamation of stuff that I couldn't deal with. And I had to explain how, well, I understand how that's helpful for space saving, but if you obscure something behind something else, that's how come I end up accidentally buying like 4 containers of Scottish oatmeal. You know, it's one thing to have bulk beans. It's another thing to keep buying beans and laundry soap because you can't physically see your soap because it's behind something. Or for instance, one time I picked up a bit of fruit. I had like a cantaloupe on the table in my living room, and this thing molded through over the course of several weeks where I put some bags nearby it of not food and a box at some point of something I had to ship out. And all I could remember is at some later point, I was like, I'm just working through the table and I'm looking through things and I'm like, what is this bag? Well, I start jostling it. It turns out the bag is a moldy cantaloupe. Moldy melon. But like, for real, it's, you know, object permanence is a bitch. So when I have problems with executive dysfunction, it's a culmination of my experience as a whole, right? We have the little things I can bifurcate off and identify one by one, but in the grand scheme of shit, it's generally my feeling of it is like, oh, I forget everything I try to start. I can't actually stick to anything. I can't feel when I have to piss or shit. I don't ever feel hungry. I can barely take my meds on time. I can't get out of bed half of the time. If I start something, I can't stop it. Like if I pick up a thing at work that I think is urgent, I can't prioritize internally. So, okay, good, maybe that's good. But now when you give me something else, like I see something fall on the floor, like the amount of internal oomph and fucking gusto driven into me in but an instant is distressing. And if I don't engage it, it's hard. So I have to, and that's okay. But to manage that and to deal with it in ways that are less detrimental for me and that put me through experiencing the wall of dysfunction as much. I store things like a gas station. I face them so object permanence can't eat my toes. When I know emotional permanence gets me, if I've been in a relationship, I communicate this very early and very clear, the best I fucking can, because I know that at a point I'm gonna have a new peak of intrigue and it is gonna be something, and I don't know what it is, but I know that internally it's gonna feel like the coolest thing in the fucking world. What do I do to deal with keeping track of myself as a whole and bringing all of the stuff that I will get to some of it later together? Mindfulness. Why does that matter now? Because it's another thing that with emotional dysregulation because I'm overwhelmed and easily overstimulated and going through executive dysfunction and another wave of burnout, have trouble with. But we're here today. You see, we're here, we're fine. Like, genuinely for me though, I know that a lot of times folks might expect yelling if I say that off rip like a Beyblade. Here, let me explain my worst meltdowns to you really quickly. It's usually me like screaming into my arms and my hands are like, I can forward fold the whole way, right? So I can I can go down there. Okay, I can put my head to my legs. Right. So if you're considering violence, me violently jerking from standing to over, clutching my legs, crying, and that I can't help but shout when someone talks to me aggressive, that's one thing. But if you talk to me at the time, I'll even tell you I'm not frustrated at you, but I'm frustrated. I find it really important to be able to delineate saying a word at someone and to them. You can say a word in parlance without saying it at someone, right? A good example is you can say fuck in parlance, like, that's a nice fucking car, bro. That shit's fucking dope. But you can also be like, bro, you fucking suck. You're a fuck. Bro, your fucking wife's fucking asshole. How the fuck did she fucking... I knocked on the door to come and get a fucking pound of sugar from you. And then she opened the door and was like, he's busy cleaning what I told him to, because he's been fucking pissing me off. Going gamba and shit. Like... Gosh. I forgot what I was talking about. I have to listen to this back. I forget what I'm saying mid-conversation sometimes. If you're on the stream, you will hear this happen. Like, I will forget what I'm saying mid-conversation, have to calm down or be reminded. If I calm down, I remember. If I'm reminded, I can pick it back up. Like, so little is a context clue, and I'll pick it up.
Or so I don't think in words, right? I think in my equilibrium. So I think in the motion you go through and feel internally in your inner ear when you turn. I think in like how the light from the sun feels different from the light in the LEDs and the light from the light in the living room when it touches my skin. Like, there's a lot of sensory stuff that I have to process in my everyday life that might make, how I engage stuff, my memories of things not line up with your experience if you don't experience it that way. And even if you do, probably doesn't align with mine, honestly. So that's life. Anyways, I forgot what I was talking about. I can just ramble on and pick it up and keep on going. Like, that's the thing I picked up. Like, I couldn't pay attention in school. I dozed off in school a fuckload. I would just in college, I woke, the first time I woke up for a long minute, at least it was like, I don't remember dozing off in high school. I could have, but I do remember dozing off in college because I had a professor for
Bro, shut this bitch up.
And I was actually asleep in the class. Like, I didn't mean to, I just couldn't sleep. My health wasn't the best at the time. And I dozed off in class. And he just looks at me and he's like, answer this thingy. And I'll just pop up and be like, well, what happens when I pop up, of course? It's that I start fixing my eyes everywhere. So I'm looking for context clues, like, is someone hinting me? Is it on the board? Is it on someone's notebook? Can I peer over to the left to me? Can I go to the right to me? If I listen, can I pick up on it? Did I pick up on it when I was sleeping somehow? I weird. Could I? I'll try to pierce through everything I can. And, usually, especially in that one, just looking next to me, realizing that we were talking about converting, base 10 and 16 and base 2. It was easy to just, okay, you told me some string of numbers. I'm looking at fucking base conversion. Let's go. Pick it up. Let's go. Got it. Try harder, bitch. Try harder, boss. So what's up?
I can't believe past me was whining about emotional regulation and impulse regulation and then just forgot what the fuck was going on. That makes sense. I was talking about emotional regulation, the magnitude of it and how I deal with it. That's cool. That's great. I'm sure that makes sense. But aren't you all? One of the things that I have my hardest wall of deficit in is in planning and prioritizing genuinely. These are things that at this moment, if you are still there and you happen to have a coping skill you want to share with a homie in need to manage their, their planning and prioritization of tasks, I'm here to listen. I'm all ears. I actually could really use the help. And I'll share more, as I think of them, I might come and whine and share more tools with you. I don't fucking know, but I think acknowledging that deficits suck, talking about how we don't have the same experience, but we have different experiences, and that doesn't matter when we exchange resources. It does matter when we start giving each other definitive ass sounding advice, because we shouldn't. If I did, I apologize. None of this is advice. This is just a bitch rambling.